You tell them you actually have a choice. You can actually help whatever you're dealing with, it, whether it's infertility and PCOS or diabetes or whatever. There is always a choice. There's always other things there. You need to know. There's new research out there. There is old research out there. And unfortunately, the way the model is done today, the health model, it's sick. It's sick and it's making us sick.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Corinne, thanks for being here today on the podcast. I'm excited to have you and just excited about this conversation. I can't wait to dive in. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited about this fall season, honestly. I love the fall weather. And so I'm just in such a good mood because of that. Corinne, I know that you are a functional medicine nutritionist, meditation and breathwork teacher. You're a fitness trainer, an author, a wife, a mama, and the founder of Nutritious and Delicious. And you have been a leader in the nutrition and wellness industry for about 15 years. You founded Nutritious and Delicious in 2011, whenever you were living in Australia. I know that your aim with that was to touch as many people as possible by providing knowledge, support, guidance, and just advice on really building a healthier lifestyle. You also have led workshops and nutrition programs in Singapore, Hong Kong, Greece, Thailand, Bali, the UK, and Australia, all over the place. Corinne, I know that your passion is to educate and to really enlighten people to ask questions and bring to light the importance of natural, nourishing foods. Please share with us your journey and what brought you here.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like many of us in this field, I came into this world because I was sick. So I actually am a lawyer. I did a degree as well in finance. I worked as a banker, and my own health kind of led me down this road of seeking a more integrative, holistic approach. My dad's a conventional doctor. When I got sick with my first autoimmune disease, I went down the conventional routes. And then I just was the perfect storm. I had like all the right things. I got Epstein-Barr virus very early on, which is a very, very common virus for teenagers. And it affected me really badly. And it was not dealt with properly in that time with my doctors. And I got put on 2 years of antibiotics.
I was going to say also, for those listening, Epstein-Barr is also known as mono. Some people might know it more commonly as mono. And yeah, it is super common in teenagers because, I mean, you can get it just from sharing a drink, sharing a drink with a friend.
Yeah, it's known as the kissing disease because it gravitates through saliva. And I got it as a teenager. And my GP at the time was just like, we didn't even check for that. I just took 2 years of antibiotics. That was what my GP put me on because that's what they did. No one was speaking about the guts and what antibiotics were doing to the gut. That probably was a good setting stone for the rest of the stuff that happened to me. But I really did it all. And, I don't know if you believe in, in energy and in things that happen to you in life. Like, everything that happened to me was, in a way, taught me how to deal with it. So now when I see it in clinic, I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that one. I know that one. So I got very sick with mono, developed Hashimoto's, had chronic fatigue for a while. And then I moved into a moldy apartment in Sydney, Australia. And that really took my health to a new low. And I developed like very chronic sinusitis and many food allergies and just deep, deep, deep fatigue. And that was my breaking point, that moldy apartment and my health there. That was where I was like, something is wrong. Like, it cannot be that I'm seeing so many doctors and they're all like, take cortisone. And, I had like massive eczema flare ups and my eyes couldn't close, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't put contact lenses in my eyes. It was like everything that could happen. And I was like, it's weird. Like, why? I'm like a healthy, normal young person. Why am I so sick? And that's
Right.
kind of wandered into the world of health and nutrition now, this 20 years ago. So, it wasn't what it is today. There were no podcasts. There were no
Right.
books. There was, no blogs. There were very few things on Google. So I went into a health food store and sought out a book and I was like, oh, food. Food could have a connection to how I feel. And that's when I started to experiment and I signed up for a night school. I did a degree in nutrition and naturopathy. So I went down the naturopathic route first. And to cut a long story short, I ended up moving a lot in my life. I lived in Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and I made lots of changes, which really helped me with the nutrition and the naturopathy, but I still wasn't feeling great. And then I got exposed to this functional medicine, which I really love because it's the collaboration of both worlds, of both the conventional world and the holistic world. And that's when I studied that and I understood this root cause. And that if you don't address your root causes, you don't really get healthy. And that for me was a big one. So that's what I started I tell my clients, like, it's like peeling off the layers of the onion. I started to like, oh, I had Epstein-Barr. Oh, I had mold exposure. Oh, I lived in South Africa. And part of life in South Africa was that the doctors just put fillings in your teeth, like, and I had like a whole mouth of mercury. Oh, I had celiac, which no one picked up. So there was just so many things that I unpacked and unraveled throughout the years, and I tell people it took me like a good, 15 years to heal. Throughout that, I worked and built a career in this, became very passionate about helping people figure out their root causes. I do use a food-first approach. I do use a very naturopathic, holistic, approach because I still that's, where I come from. But I'm seeing a lot of sick people, and I know that there's so much that can be done. It can be daunting, but there's just so much that can be done, and I want people to know that because, even when you're in that deep, dark place where you're like, "Oh, it just like, this is too much for me," you're gonna get out of it. You can get out of it. You can feel like I, in my 40s, feel like 50 million times better than I did in my 20s, like, energetically, cognitively. Maybe I don't look the same, maybe I look better when I was 20 years ago, but I feel great, and that's what matters, right? How do you feel? What's your energy like? That's priceless.
Yeah. I love your story, just the snippet of it. I mean, that's awesome. And I think it takes somebody like you and me and other people that I've had here on the podcast who have had their own health struggles to really get into this and to even find a more holistic approach to healing, right? For whatever reason, it's not offered to everybody. Like most people do go to their general practitioner and they're not taught a food first approach, or they are put directly on antibiotics for something, maybe because that's all that they know to do. It's not necessarily the provider's fault. But whenever you do start to peel back the layers of the onion, like you were saying, and look at the whole picture. Look at your whole lifespan, at everything that you have gone through, whether it was illness or moving somewhere different or the mercury fillings. And then you think about the impact that all of these things can have and did have on your health. It's just amazing that you can overcome that. But it's totally possible. And it's not a quick fix, but it takes time. And you were saying, like, now in your 40s, you have more energy and feel better. I mean, I can attest to the same thing. I'm in my 30s, and there is absolutely no way I wanna ever go back to my 20s. Like, just through my own health journey, I'm like, I am so much healthier, such a better person, have so much more energy. Like, my 20s was terrible. It was terrible. I mean,
just because of it's like all the repercussions of all of these things that impact your health along the way, whether that be the environment, the food, the medicine, antibiotics, all of that. And I just keep thinking as moms, like we need to pour into our kids to make sure that we set them up to not just go down that route of like, just do what your doctor says, right? Like find a holistic approach. And
Well, it's not so easy. I hear you saying that. I'm like, I'm angry. I'm angry because it's not fair. It's not
right,
fair to these people. And my job and your job, why we're so passionate, is we want to educate the moms, the dads, the teenagers, whoever we can get our hands on.
right.
You tell them you actually have a choice. You can actually help whatever you're dealing with, it, whether it's infertility and PCOS or diabetes or whatever. There is always a choice. There's always other things there. You need to know. There's new research out there. There is old research out there. There's so much out there. And unfortunately, the way the model is done today, the health model, it's sick. It's sick and it's making us sick.
Yeah.
And that's why podcasts like yours are great, because maybe someone will hear this and they'll be like, oh, wow, there might be other things for me, and I can help myself.
Yeah, I know that that's my goal. I mean, just based out of where I am, like I'm in Mississippi, I've been here my whole life. There's a few other functional practitioners in the area, in the state that I've connected with, but all in all, functional medicine was not something that I even knew about until a few years ago when I was at my rock bottom and I had to do my own research to figure it out. Like, even the places in the state that do practice more holistically, I wasn't aware of. Like, it wasn't ever an option. Like, I wasn't given a choice, essentially. Whenever I had my health struggles, my doctor was like, "This is what you're gonna have to do for the rest of your life." And it took me, honestly, being a little rebellious and being like, "Okay, like, I don't know if I wanna do that. I'm gonna have to advocate for myself and look into this." And thankfully, that helped me figure out a different answer. But some people just don't know. And yeah, it's really scary. And I know you've lived in so many different places. Where do you live currently?
I live currently in Israel. It's a challenging place to be in at the moment.
I was thinking how healthcare probably looks different in different places.
100%. And everything, I really am one of these people that it sounds so cliche, but I'm so like everything happens for a reason. Every place that you come to is part of your healing journey. And for me, I spent many, many years healing my physical body. And came back to Israel. I knew I was coming back. I had a feeling it was going to be intense. And I came back during COVID, and it's been now a year of a war here, which has been very, very intense. And it's been part of my mental slash spiritual healing here. It's forced me to go into very tough places and deal with like deep fear, deep, deep emotions that I didn't ever venture into or didn't want to. So that's also something I'm passionate about. And I think people should know. And this is something that maybe you see in the clinic as well. People that do really well on the physical stuff, like they eat the good diet, they exercise, they take their supplements, they're great. Maybe they do ice baths and sauna and whatever, right? But they're still not where they want to be with their health. And then there's always that other root cause that's called trauma and spiritual and mental health. And you can't really get healthy if you don't touch those.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's a very important root cause. And very often I'll sit with people in the clinic and I'll be like, that's it. We've done what we can do. You have something underlying. It might be trauma. It might be, I don't know. You got to explore it. It's time to dig deep. And people are scared of that.
Right. I think confronting the uncomfortable is very intimidating for people. But like whenever I think about the root cause of what's going on with anybody, I'm like, your mental, emotional, spiritual health, like those are at the center. And you can work all day long on your gut health, all these other areas. You can take your supplements diligently, be doing all these things, checking all the boxes. But your mental health, your spiritual health, like all of that has such an impact on your physical health too.
Huge, huge impact. And
So
you asked me about the different cultures and the different medical systems. I've experienced like private healthcare where, you can see any doctor and you've got amazing insurance and, and I've been in the public medical care, which is what I'm currently in Israel. I will tell you that in both systems, whether private or public, you have to be your own self advocate. The public they're very stingy on the amount of
stuff that they'll do on you, like tests and stuff like that, and you have to be a pusher. In the private healthcare, they want to do any tests on you, sometimes too much, and any operation on you, sometimes too much because they're making money off you. So you have to be a very strong self-advocate, and you have to come in with knowledge, and you have to know who can I who can I ask about this? Like, who can give me a second opinion, like a proper, unbiased, like second opinion, you know?
Right.
And just
Right.
building that network and building these people that you trust, with these things, because no one's an expert in everything. Like, I'm not an expert in vaccines, for example. I know it's a super controversial topic. Don't worry, I'm not going to say anything pro or against, but I'm not an expert on it. But I have kids, right? And you have kids, right? And, vaccines are something that we worry about because we've seen it. And you wanna understand your doctor's going to be like, you have to vaccinate. But you might think, do I really have to vaccinate every single vaccine? I don't know. Is it worthwhile understanding from a very educated person the pros and the cons? Probably. Probably. You know,
Right.
on any topic, it doesn't matter what topic it is, really. It's understanding that there's a lot of knowledge out there. And it's absurd that this knowledge is also kept from us. And specifically post COVID, a lot of this knowledge is kept from us. A lot of the knowledge is you can't Google certain things anymore. Google pushes other things. There's a big trend of trying to make us think a certain way or act a certain way, which is scary. Which is scary. And even in this day and age, you have to be even more of an advocate for your health.
Yes. Oh, yes, that is so true. And I was thinking being an advocate for your own health is not even something that's talked about. It's just not pushed. It's just all go to your doctor, go to your doctor. But I love how you said, like, you're not an expert in this. And I'm not an expert in certain things. There's not one provider out there that knows everything either. Whenever I started being an advocate for my own health, my life significantly changed in the good ways. Like, if I would have not advocated for my own health, I would have had another C-section with my second child, another surgery that was completely not needed. I probably would not have found functional medicine. I would still be on a pill and just having stomach pain every single day and just accepting that, like, that's how life is. I
Yeah.
probably would have some kind of autoimmune disease now, right? You have to fight to be healthy, to survive. Like people say these days, like, we've got it so easy with convenience, with like fast food and all these things right at our fingertips, right? And maybe in a sense, but I think it's kind of masked because, like, we do have to fight every single day to be healthy. We have to decide to wake up and take care of ourselves and feed ourselves healthy food, that's covered in all these chemicals and make that conscious decision. So, yeah, being an advocate for your health.
Well, the flip side, there's a lot more data than there was 10 years ago.
Yes,
There are fantastic practitioners out there, and if you can find a practitioner that you trust, that you have a good relationship with, that has a good vast network, then you're good. Like, for example, my network is amazing, and one of the things that I try and do is whenever I get to a country is I meet all the functional medicine doctors and all the holistic doctors, and then I build a network. So then when I see a client and I'll be like, oh, you really need to see this person with regards to this, or this is a great complementary, service to whatever we're doing. And that's where you can find people that you trust. And a good practitioner will be someone who's curious, who'll be someone that will admit that they don't know everything, who'll be
exactly.
someone that will be empathetic to you and will want to hear you and what you're thinking and your worries and give you unbiased education, which I think is crucial. And there are people like that. I've met them. I've been in the US, countless times. I've come to every single, functional medicine, IFM, yearly gathering. I've done trainings in the US. I really have networked with a lot of people. They're fantastic people, not only in the US, all over the world. You just need to be curious and find them and reach out when you find these people. And it's not that hard. It's much easier than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely true. Yeah, it is. Now, I'm curious. So, you're the founder of Nutritious and Delicious. I'm wondering, what is this? What is this about?
So my business is kind of divided into two. One is one-on-one sessions where it's really sitting down and having a very personalized protocol for that person, whatever they're going through, which includes like a menu plan and recipes and and lots of advice and, whatever they need, including supplements and stuff like that. And the other half of my business is workshops. I love interacting with people, with a group of people and teaching them cooking, or I teach a lot of fermentation workshops where you learn to make your own fermented foods. I collaborate with a lot of people. I collaborate with psychologists, cancer specialists, shamans, and lead, master classes or retreats around the world that are aimed at kind of giving you information. Like, for example, at the moment, I have 2 classes with a very close colleague of mine who is also a family therapist. We're calling it the root cause series of both ADHD and eczema. Right.
Interesting.
Really tackling it from what we just said, right? From the physical functional medicine side and also from the mental spiritual side, because there is always a reason in the mental spiritual side that something is exacerbated or even gets like lit up, right? So I love that, like, collaborating with people. So Nutrition and Delicious really was born lately. When I founded it when I was like 30. I wasn't even 30, I think it was like 29. For me, in those days, I don't think I've ever said this to anyone, but a lot of people even in my tight circle, were laughing at me. They were like, "Oh, you with your quinoa and seeds, you're eating bird food, you're like a weirdo, blah, blah." From a very young age, people were laughing at me that my food was like weird and not tasty. And even I remember my mom saying, "Oh, it's so bland." And it really hurt me, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, that was like, no, like I really want to show people that actually, healthy food can be actually really delicious. Like it can. And, today I lead a fat loss course called 21 Days to a New You. And, I've run it maybe like 20, 25 times, and it's a 1 month long course. And the best feedback that I get, like the one that makes me smile the most is when someone will write, "Oh my God, that recipe was amazing. Like the kids loved that recipe. Like we enjoyed it." And out of everything, I don't care if they lose weight, if they like nothing matters, but I'm like, they enjoyed the food. Yay. Like, that
Yeah.
makes me happy.
Yeah. I love that you said that though, because I was having a conversation the other day with somebody who was like, I just need to eat food that's delicious. Like, I don't know if I can eat the same type of foods all the time that are bland. And I want to eat food that tastes good. And their assumption is that healthy food doesn't taste good. So we dug into that a little bit, and they had never eaten a healthy diet consistently for more than a day or two, and their idea of what is healthy was completely distraught anyway. But what I realized with my own relationship with food, once I started eating real whole food that was like one ingredient, right? And wasn't made out in a factory, was okay, like I'm not craving sugar. Like I'm not craving these things that I think taste good. But you kind of take a step back, and it's almost like an out of body experience because you realize my body was craving these things or my mind was making me crave these things, but I didn't necessarily really need it or want it, and then you start to taste and really appreciate just the basic food. And it tastes amazing. Like you have so many options. People think that eating healthy is so limited, but there are so many options and so many ways to mix and match things. I look forward every day to eating my food, you know? But
And
I
it's like,
mean,
why not? Why not?
yeah,
Like,
but it's not the craving for it. It's such a different experience. It's, knowing that this food is gonna nourish my body and taste amazing. It's not that sugar craving. And typically, if you've got those, salty or sugary type cravings for yummy foods, I mean, that typically means there's something off in your gut. You shouldn't be craving these foods. But I love how you pointed that out because my relationship with food has definitely changed the more intentional I have been about wanting to be healthy. So,
yeah, I mean, I had a really shitty diet when I was growing up. Like, I ate junk like no tomorrow. And so I relate to those sugar cravings, the cravings for the junk food. Yeah, I'm really there. But the good news again is that there's a lot of like even, ice cream or chips. I teach this to everyone. Like you can have ice cream that has like 30 ingredients in it and like food coloring and God knows what. And you can have real ice cream that has literally cream, sugar, and a fruit. So okay, it's got sugar, it's not great, but it's still a non-processed food.
Right.
You know? And the same with chips. You can get chips that are, like, full of, like, MSG and food coloring and God knows what else in it. And you can get chips that are just, like, potato and avocado oil or potato and, coconut oil and that and some salt. So,
Right.
I always tell people you always have a choice. And yeah, probably me and you eat very healthy compared to the majority of people that, hang out. But there's such a big spectrum. And, some people have to change their diet in order to function properly. And some people have a little bit more leeway. I always tell people, like, my goal is not to make people be on a very restricted diet. I want people to have a diverse diet. I want them to be able to enjoy that occasional birthday cake. But even there, like, once you understand real food, and this is the thing, and I was going to say it to you before, we've gone so far away from our roots in a sense that, like, we don't grow food. I mean, not a lot of us, but some people do. But most of us don't grow food. We rarely even like get close to like picking food, or a lot of it comes like frozen or in a bag, or even like lettuce today comes washed and cut up for you, and like you don't even have to like wash and cut up a lettuce. I mean, I work with kids. Some kids don't even know how some vegetables look like because they've never seen them, right? So we're so far away from that. And once upon a time, we used to live in communities where we would grow our food, where women would hang out with other women and they would learn, this herb is great for this and this. If your baby or your child suffers with this is what you should do for them. And we've lost that connection. We've lost that intuition, that education, and we're so far disconnected. We've like totally outsourced our health to one person, which is the doctor, who doesn't know anything about nutrition and lifestyle factors as well. I mean, I can tell you, I've seen doctors smoking. I've doctors doing anything and everything, like, telling me it's perfectly fine to drink alcohol during pregnancy. And I'm like, no, it's not
Right.
drink alcohol during pregnancy. But that's the thing. Like, people need to connect again, reconnect, get into a community, get into like-minded people. The people you hang out with tell a good story about who you are. If you want to change your lifestyle, change, who you hang out with. Grow some vegetables, get closer to that, cook from scratch. It's amazing. It really is. I know it sounds like ludicrous for some people, and probably me and you are like, yeah, we love it. But this is probably one of the best ways to take hold of your health and your kids' health. If a woman makes a change in her diet, it's so impactful because not only does she change her own health and her genes, she's changing the whole family because those kids are going to eat healthier. The husband or the partner, whoever it is there, is going to eat healthier. And that's going to impact future generations.
Right. I love how you pointed out, though, like even impacting her genes. So, infertility is just at a rise in the States now. And so is obesity and chronic disease. And there's such a connection how we treat our genes. Like, we've got genes. And so we already have like some susceptibility to certain things like autoimmune disease, but it is what we do with that matters. Like, we can completely change the trajectory of which direction our genes decide to go if we eat the right foods and nourish our bodies the right way. And that is, like you were saying, we have a choice. That choice is not presented to us in a clear manner. The more that you stay healthy, you're going to pass that on to your children, your future children, your children that are already earthside are here going to see you living this healthy lifestyle too, right? It's so important for sure.
And it's impactful. I'll tell you, I have teenagers. So, when you have little kids, you can really like, you can control what they're eating because you're like, you can make sure that they have cute little snacks or whatever. But when you have teenagers, it all goes down the drain there. They're like independent, they're doing things behind your back. But what's interesting is that even if your teenagers go behind your back and eat junk foods and, eat food that you might not agree with, it's interesting to know that when you hold a healthy house and it's not an unhealthy relationship to food, so it's not like a punishing, it's rather like this is how we eat because we appreciate, real food, and you make food become a fun thing, not like, oh, if you don't eat your veggies, I'm going to punish you and whatever. Even when those kids, go behind your back and eat those sweets and whatever, their base is still like, we like healthy food. And I've tried that on my own kids many, many times. both do camps in the US in the summer camps. There's not a lot of healthy food going on in those camps. And, they come home and they're like, we ate a whole lot of crap the whole summer, but we're like craving, our salad and our, protein. And, my son would say to me this year at camp, he's like, Mom, like the breakfast is like really bad. Can you let's strategize. What can I bring to camp? And I was like, okay, I could send you some good quality protein powder. I could send you there's amazing stuff now that you can get, especially in the States. Like there's these like high protein cereals that are like minimally processed. I was like, okay, we can send you some cereals, we can send you some protein powder. And I'm like, grab a banana and that's a good breakfast for you. You just mix it all up. And he's like, great, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't want to eat that fried stuff anymore in the morning. And he was like, I'm gonna make sure that I'm having one salad a day. So even though he was going to a place where, he probably ate a whole lot of junk and there wasn't the greatest food, he still was important for him to have, and this is like a teenage boy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's what it's about. Like, it's not about being perfect, but it's about making the best effort that you can to take care of your body because
Yeah.
you only have that one body and it can only forgive you for so long for, abusing it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know that you mentioned that you had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's too. So, is that something that you noticed a big change in once you really started working on your nutrition?
So, what's sad is that when I was diagnosed, nobody really explained to me that it was an autoimmune disease. So the doctor just gave me T4 medication, thyroxine,
Yeah.
and that was it. I only, for years later, understood that my body was attacking my thyroid gland, and no one even checked my antibodies at that time. And by the time I had started to understand the concept and like what was like, years had passed. So by the time I did an ultrasound on my thyroid, I had barely any thyroid left. Like it was, and that's really sad because I really don't have much of it left. My body totally like ate it up. So I, for life, need to take T4 and T3 medication to function. So you're asking, like, did it make a difference when I did it did. And thankfully for thyroid or for Hashimoto, you can measure success with the antibodies. So for me, my antibodies were in the thousands. I was like 4,000, 5,000, and it went down to the hundreds. So it never went down completely, but it's, sometimes it goes below 100, sometimes it goes to 50. With me, it's a lot of like emotional and stress stuff that I, but from 4,000 to like the 100,
That's a big,
good. That's good.
yeah.
And so for me, that was a good sign. I developed a second autoimmune disease before I understood that I had this autoimmune disease thing, which was celiac. But, once you have one autoimmune disease, the likelihood of developing two or three autoimmune diseases starts to really become,
Yeah. You're
really
very susceptible to it. Yeah.
yeah. And I managed to kind of stabilize that, which is, touch wood, really good. And for me, the thyroid really impacted my energy levels. Like I just was just like such a sloth. I just so tired all the time. And so I wouldn't say I am the perkiest person, but I definitely feel that my energy is very good compared to others. I don't have those slumps anymore. And the brain fog, that brain fog there that you're like, who, what? Like that all went like sharp.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a very big implication of, did this work for me or not? And it was subtle and slow. It wasn't all at once. And I would work on one thing, like I did the mercury amalgams that took me a whole year. And then I rested for a year. And then I tackled the gut. And then it took me time. It took me a long time to figure out the things. But,
Yeah.
that's a good one that you can measure the auto antibodies. Yeah.
Right.
Because then you
Yeah.
can see it's working.
That blows my mind though that nobody ever explained to you like that it was
It's just like, oh, your thyroid's underactive. You'll
yeah.
just do this.
Well,
Okay.
it reminds me. So when I was a teenager, I had hypothyroid. It wasn't Hashimoto's. It wasn't to that extent, but my thyroid was sluggish and I was put on medication for it. And it wasn't for very long. I mean, it may have been a year, but I didn't even connect the dots until a few years ago because it was in my file at one of the doctor's offices that I had been on that medication. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. And I guess I just
stopped taking it. It improved. I don't know what happened. Either way, I don't have issues with that now. But looking back, like high school for me was so hard. I was not a straight A student. I struggled tremendously. I was going to go to art school. That's what my first degree was in. So science, math, I didn't need that, right? Little did I know the Lord wanted me to learn it really, but later on. But I had so much brain fog. I found out when I was in college that I was diagnosed with ADD. So because I couldn't concentrate in school, so I was put on medication for that. And like peeling back the layers of the onion and just looking, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like it's so connected." And then I do see the genes and I'm like, if I don't take care of myself right now, these are things that could happen to me, but I have the choice, right? To decide, okay, what am I going to do with this? And it's really scary if you think about like just going through life lax, laid back, just doing what your doctor says, right? Just doing what they say. If I just did what they said, Lord, I don't even want to know what kind of person I would be. I would not be, oh man, I would not be the mom I want to be. I would not be confident. I would be exhausted. I'd probably still be in the bed right now. you know?
I mean, yeah, because that's it. That's the thing. And doctors don't care. Like they don't care about that. They just, want to give you the medication. They want to make sure you're not going to die on them. And the rest, they don't care about that. And I think with thyroid and Hashimoto's, there's so much that you can do. There are much more difficult autoimmune diseases to deal with. Thyroid is one of the easier ones. Like it's easy to like work on it. And
It's
it's very
yeah,
fun.
it's simple. Like any stressors, like any external or internal stressors, whether that's emotional, or physical, like stressors on the body, that is what does it for the thyroid. And so it might not be easy, but yeah, like it's super straightforward and simple. But
Yeah.
then learning how to control that stress is the challenging part sometimes. But yeah,
But
gosh.
even understanding that is a good start.
Right, right. Because a lot of people too, like, I mean, like you were the patient who wasn't even explained what it was, what was going on, or what impact it had, right? And so I think it's just not discussed with the patient enough. But I don't think providers, I was listening to a podcast not long ago, and it was a doctor talking about in residency, whenever you go back and look at like all these entrance essays that all these pre-med students do, they want to get into the field for the right reasons. They want to help people. They want to change the world. They want to do all these positive things. And then it's like in the midst of their education and getting into the real world, they're not given the time to even reflect back on those things, and they're just crammed with all this information and, only a 7-minute time slot per patient essentially. And so the real why behind why they got into it to begin with just gets muddled down and they forget.
But
So
that's also like they choose to be very centered. Like they want to hold someone's health alone. They don't want to outsource. Like if a doctor's clinic, a regular doctor's clinic, had a nutritionist, had a psychologist, had a counselor, had a coach, had a, I don't know, TCM maybe a massage therapist, I don't know, whatever and it was a proper holistic like setting, and the doctor would be like, okay, you're going to go to the nutritionist now and you're going to try her program for 3 months. And if in 3 months' time those cholesterol levels don't come down, I'm going to have to put you on medication. And
right,
the counselor is like, yeah, I don't have time. I'm just going to put you on. But why not build this? Like, why not change? The
right,
system can change. It's not that I expect doctors to go and learn nutrition now. No, but collaborate. And it's happening, which is even more worrisome to me, is that many doctors, and I experience this a lot with my cancer patients, they'll be like, food has nothing to do with this. You can eat whatever you want. And I'm like, really? How do you know that? Like, have you been reading papers? Have you been like, where have you been? Under which? And yeah, they're overworked. They're overwhelmed. They're underpaid. I agree with all of that. And so they don't have time to read anything. And they're not reading what me and you are reading. And they're not listening to what me and you are listening. If they are, they're very special doctors. But this is the thing, like the model needs to change.
Yeah.
But it's not going to change from the top down. It needs to change from the bottom up. It needs to come from the clients. It needs to come from the patients who are going to say, this is not acceptable anymore. No.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of young people and even older people who are Googling and are coming and are suggesting and are saying, actually, I am not sure about this. And you're a great testament to this, right? You were like, I'm no, no, no. Well, great. You know,
Yeah. I mean, and even like originally, like I worked in a Western medicine clinic. I mean, I'm trained traditionally as a Western medicine nurse practitioner, but I've also been trained with IFM through functional medicine. And so I can see both sides of it as a patient and a provider. And working in a traditional clinic, you do have patients that come in. They're like, okay, just tell me like pros and cons about this. And a lot of times I would go to different clinics and see patients who were not my primary patient. Like they had been under the care of somebody else for a while. And so I always was super thorough about going through all their medicines, their goals, all of those things. And they didn't know half the reasons they were on half their medications. And a lot of times too, there would be some who were like, I really don't want a medication, but like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I hadn't been told another option. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I'm here to talk to you because let me tell you this. And that's the kind of person that I would want to engage with, right?
exactly.
But you do
Yeah.
get these people. And I had found too that those are the people too that are they're almost nervous to ask their doctor about it because they feel like they'll be shut down on.
They are shut down.
And that's terrible
And I'm
because
sure you come across medical professionals from all spectrums who will be like, that's a whole lot of bull. Don't listen to that. You know, it's a conspiracy. I don't even know what they're saying. And those people are dangerous. Those people are
I
very dangerous.
know functional medicine looks at the why. It looks at the pros and the cons. It looks at Western medicine and alternatives. Like you were saying, it combines everything and looks at, okay, like what benefit is this for the patient? If it is the medication, okay, like then that's the answer for that patient.
Right.
Yes, but like what's the plan after that? Like how long are we going to be on it? How like what's the trajectory look like here? Or, let's use that as a tool, but not that's it, end of the discussion because I got into a pretty heated argument with another collaborator who just did not agree with anything that I was doing. And I had to completely distance myself from that because morally, ethically, I'm like, this is not right. Like, I mean, this is wrong. This is just wrong. And it's so sad whenever they're like a highly respected provider in the area. And it's just not okay. It's not okay.
I think that goes to everything in life. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be closed on anything. You should be curious on everything.
Right.
If you come across a provider, anyone that listens to this ever, if you come across a provider that's like his way or the highway or her way or the highway, run. Like, do
Yeah.
not go with those people. I don't agree with that approach. No one should work with you like that.
Right.
This is your body, and you have a right to say what you think and feel. And there's a lot of solutions. And, I don't judge anybody. I don't judge people that I work with lots of ADHD parents and ADD. I don't judge people for giving their kids medication. Sometimes it's needed. But there's, as you say, there's always the other stuff that we can work on, the lifestyle factors. And, is this going to be forever? Because eventually a lot of these kids don't thrive on the medication and we need to take them off. And, I had a client with taking massive sleeping medication. I'm like, it's not going to help you long term. Like,
Right.
you need to figure out what the sleep issue is. She's going through menopause. That's the sleep thing. She's low on progesterone. Maybe we give her some magnesium. Maybe we give her some melatonin. Maybe that will help this lady, but let's try. But no, let's just pump her full of sleeping medications and, create a whole other issue with her.
Right.
It's the thing. Like, if I have to like say one thing to people, if they ever meet me and, there's like one thing that I say to people, I'm like, be curious, ask questions. If you're hanging out with these type of people that are just like, that's it. No, like it has to be, then that's very wrong. And everything needs to be questioned because I really think that in today's day and age, there's an agenda on everything. And you need to be working with people that their agenda is your health, and not anything else. And you have to come to it like very, open.
Yeah, for sure. That just reminds me, I did have a patient a couple of months ago whose cholesterol had been high a few times, maybe 2 or 3 times in a row. And, per protocol, Western medicine would say, "Oh, put them on a statin." Well, she didn't wanna be on a statin, so I said, "Okay, fine, then don't do that," right? But let's look here. Let's look at pros and cons. And there's a tool out there for anybody listening. It's called the Mayo Clinic Statin Decision Calculator. And you can plug in all of your numbers, your ethnicity, if you have diabetes, if you're a smoker, if you have high blood pressure, your last cholesterol readings, those kind of things. And it will tell you what your risk is for having any kind of cardiovascular event and if you would benefit from a protective
Mm,
medication. And some people might need that, right? Some people might, but this person's risk was like less than 5%. I mean, very minuscule. And so I told her, I said, you can confidently now know your decision. It sounds great, but I think that you should be informed and know these things. And she was very appreciative of that. And I got so much pushback. It blew my mind because not only did I had all the documentation, I'm up to the most evidence-based research, and I'm doing what the patient wants. Literally didn't do anything wrong, but then later found out that if the patient has a certain diagnosis and gets put on a certain medication, clinic gets more money, right? And I wasn't making money for it. So yeah, asking why is just and being curious. It's very important for sure.
very, very. And I've heard numerous stories of doctors being, I have a close friend. She's a doctor. She was fired from her job because she didn't prescribe Lipitor enough, which is a statin. She was like, "No, I'm giving people omega-3s. I'm changing their diets. I'm like, I'm working with other stuff, herbs and stuff like that." And the clinic was like, "No, there's a quota of statins and diabetes medication that needs to be get, and you don't do it, you get fired. That's it. It's very simple." And that's what people don't know. And
Yeah,
that's sad. We're like,
it's really unfortunate. And even talking about like omega-3s, you know, I had another provider tell me, "We don't do supplements. We don't prescribe those. We don't offer those." And these are like key quality. It's not that they're supplements. I mean, these are like essential nutrient factors that your body needs and makes to function, like that you make already, but you need extra to support your body, especially if you're on certain medications, because certain medications deplete those factors. And so to me, that's like the basic biochemistry too. And I'm like, how does a provider not? Anyway, it blows my mind. It blows my mind because it's like
it's there's
they're
still a long way
trying
to go.
well, it's like they're trying to unravel everything and make it fall apart. It's like, how much can we mess this up?
I've seen a lot of advance in this field of functional medicine, because don't forget I'm here for, good, my journey started 20 years ago, even a little bit more. But I've been here in the functional medicine world pretty much from the get-go. I'm really from the older functional medicine practitioners. There's a lot of advance. There's a lot of advance. We have a lot more people asking about us. People know, people hear about functional medicine. It's a lot more in many countries, not just the States, right? Yes, the pushback from the conventional community is there for sure. We have to look at the half full cup, not the half empty cup, right? So I feel like there's stuff that's getting there. Are we still angry? Yeah, because it's not fair. But we're doing our jobs. We're doing our jobs and we're doing them well. I don't try to advertise myself, but I get busy because people get sick of the conventional doctors and they're looking for another alternative. And they've been me. So if this wasn't working, I'd be out of a job. But it's working. And
Right.
they're friends. So there is something about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Corinne, this has been an awesome conversation. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today?
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. I hope we inspired people to think out of the box. I hope people feel empowered.
Yes. And get curious. Just get curious for sure.
And be strong. This is your body. Like, this is, stand up for yourself. Don't let people push you
Exactly.
around. Don't let
Exactly.
people, especially not medical personnel.
Right. Yes, for sure.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.